The Truth of Girls.
Hi everyone. Well, I wanted to talk to you about a very interesting story that I've been following for some time, which is the story of Justina Pelletier. So Justina Pelletier is a young girl who had been diagnosed at Tufts with mitochondrial disorder. And she'd been following treatment, everything was going well. And then she was supposed to go to Boston Children's Hospital for treatment of symptom flare-up related to this. And what followed ended up basically being a nightmare for her and her family, and has resulted in a very interesting and important case sort of on the legal end, because we know that the Department of Child and Family Services and CPS and the medical profession also, they do kind of overstep their boundaries sometimes. And sometimes I think when they make mistakes, they would rather continue with the mistake, even at the expense of the well-being of the people who are on the receiving end of it, rather than admit that they've made a mistake. It happens, and it's a huge injustice, and many families have suffered because of this. So this is a very interesting case, and you'll see why. So she went to Boston Children's Hospital, and when she got there, instead of seeing the doctor she was supposed to see, she ended up seeing a resident who'd only been practicing for 7 months. And this resident disagreed with the diagnosis of mitochondrial disease. And he consulted with a psychologist whose name was Simona Bujoianu. I'm sorry, I know it's Romanian, but it's hard to pronounce. Anyhow, so this doctor disagreed that it was a mitochondrial disease and said it was a somatoform disorder. What you call it? Yeah, somatoform disorder, which is like a psychological disorder where you have disease symptoms in your body, but it comes from your head. And this doctor is pretty invested in this diagnosis, I guess. This is sort of her specialty, and she's working on research in this area. And she actually believes that 50% of illness symptoms in kids could be caused by somatoform disorder. Like, it's all in your head. So anyhow, what happened was then they sort of scrapped the original treatment plan and tried to revise it, and the parents disagreed. And that's where everything went completely haywire. They called in child protection, and they took Justina away from her parents, Linda and Lou Pelletier. And they basically kept her prisoner in the hospital, and she's been there for like a year now, withholding treatment for mitochondrial disease. And then they cut off the parents from contact. At some point, they had issued a gag order on the parents that they couldn't talk about it in the media, which they did anyway. And then, they made it out like the parents were doing something wrong and they were putting their daughter in jeopardy. But really, the evidence shows that it was the hospital that did wrong, misdiagnosed, mistreated her, and kidnapped her. Now, while she was or has been in the custody of the hospital, it also became apparent that she was really not being treated well. Aside from the fact she's not getting the medical treatment she needs, she was being kind of abused, as revealed in notes. She had sent this shocking note to her parents, which says that they don't let her sleep very much, and that they hurt me all the time, push me all the time, and more. There was also an incident where Justina was harassed by staffers while taking a shower. This was reported by Justina's sister, that she was harassed while naked in the shower by a male staffer, although of course the hospital denies these allegations. And in fact, Justina Pelletier's sister had reported that Justina's health was scary while she was in custody of the hospital. And there are some videos out and some pictures, and you can really see how much Justina had deteriorated. She went from being an active teen who was doing things like skating to being confined to a wheelchair and not doing well at all. But the story seems to be heading towards a happy ending. The family did have a very good advocate, Reverend Patrick Mahoney, who had the cojones to stand up to the state and the courts. Also, the Pelletiers had made a Facebook page which has over 44,000 likes on it, A Miracle for Justina, which had a tremendous impact in terms of getting public support. And as you see by their posts here, they're really encouraging people to Keep calling, just keep calling. Let those who are handling this know that the public knows that what they're doing isn't right and that Justina needs to be released and sent home to be with her parents where she belongs. And it looks like that's finally what's going to be happening, that there's a reunification plan made by DCF, and since the conditions have been met, it looks like Justina will be finally heading home. It can't happen soon enough, and I just think that this is a good example of how people in positions of power tend to get a God complex sometimes and abuse their power, but that public support and strength in numbers can sort of even the score. That by having enough public support, you can help get justice done instead of just being a victim, just being victimized and having to just sort of shut up about it. That together we can fight for justice for each other. And so, free Justina. I'm really happy to see this is turning out good. And thanks for listening to me, and I'll see you next time.